when we start to make our key rack, the boards that you'll be given will be about this long. And how long is that? Well, just to give you an idea, one board is going to get you this front piece and these two side pieces here, this little piece with a rounded edge there. So one of these boards will get you that. So here's the templates we're going to be using to trace our parts and pieces out of. So here we have, that makes sense that this piece, the longer piece, would be the one for the front and the side pieces. And then the top will come out of the shorter board. We see how we're just a little bit longer than the top there. So the top board measures 3 inches, and the front board here measures 2.5, and so does the sideboard here, 2.5. So we need this piece, which is going to be our top. Let's go ahead and label that to be top. So that's our top. We need that to be 3 wide. So the top board needs to be 3 inches wide. 3 inches. 3 inches wide. Okay. The other piece here, which is going to make this and this, needs to be 2.5 inches wide. So let's label that 2.5 inches wide. So we've planed it down to 1/2 inch already on the planer. Now we need to go to the table saw and rip the board. When I say rip, remember, we're talking about up and down the grain this way. When I say cross cut, we're going to be doing this. So on the table saw, we're going to be doing the rip operation. So the long parts against the fence, like the table saw video explained. So let me get set up for that, and we'll meet you at the table saw. Okay, at the table saw here, we want to make sure that we're setting the fence the correct distance away from the blade. And it's a good habit to check to make sure that the blade is square to the table. To do that, I'm going to raise the blade of the table saw using this wheel right here in front. So I want to make sure the blade is square to the table. So what I'm going to do is set my square up like this and make sure that, in fact, the blade is square. Right now it's not quite square, so I'm going to use the other wheel on this side of the machine and my head in the way. That's an example of not being square. Let's see if I can get you over here. So the blade's tilting. I'm going to tilt it back so it becomes square to the table, or 90 degrees, or perpendicular, whatever you want to call it. All right. Get my head in the way here. Okay, so square. Good. Okay, in setting up for this cut, again, I want the blade to be 3 inches away from the fence. So if I get you in right here, that right there is the tooth of the blade. So I'm going to be measuring from the inside of that tooth to the fence at 3 inches. If I had a camera person here, it might be a little bit easier, but I don't. So with my tape measure, I'm going to stick my tape measure against the fence and get it to 3 inches. Let's see if I can do this. And do this. And there we are. So we're 3 inches in to that blade. For your first project, I have these made up. This is a piece of wood that's 3 inches wide that we can use as a check or a template. So I'm going to put it between the blade and the fence and see how it feels. So what we want to do is adjust that fence just so, actually what I should do is make sure I don't cut this thing, so make sure it actually is 3 inches, which it is. So I'm going to use this. So say the fence is out of adjustment, we don't know where it is. I'm going to use this board as a way to set up for our cut. Now if you watch carefully, can you see it from that angle? That blade kind of moves a little bit. So we don't want too much pressure on that blade. So now we have a little gap right there. We want to close that gap. We're going to adjust it so that board just barely touches. That's too tight. We're going to kick it out a little bit. Right there. We don't want that board to be too tight on there. So that'd be an example of good. This would be an example of bad. Right now that board's just too tight. So let me get it back to where I want it. That's too loose. Give it a little bit of tap there. And right there, that blade kind of moves a little bit from the friction of the board. Okay, so now we're good. We're at 3 inches. We can go ahead and run our top board. So is this the board we want? No, we want the 3-inch board. So this top board we want 3 inches. We're going to put that X against the fence, and we're going to lower that blade down because it's too high right now. Get our push stick ready, just like the table saw video. We're going to make that cut. I forgot to hit the record button. So I already made my cut on the 3-inch board. I'll redo that whole process now that I have a 2.5-inch board. And this time, I'll record it for you. Again, with our X against the fence. All right, now the blade stops. We got a 3-inch board and a 2.5-inch board ripped to width. And now we're ready for the next step.